Hello everyone, Sage here and welcome to the Executive Corner, Expert Talks by 𝐶𝐞 TV. Today's guest is Mr. Vlado Bosanac, the Executive Chairman, CEO and Co-founder of Advanced Human Imaging. We're going to delve into the world of smartphone-based human scanning technology innovations and how they're being used across multiple industries in today's show. And as you know, we bring you the industry leaders, successful business owners, market and equity advocates all under the one roof to help you discover the insights of the stock markets. So, in today's show, we have Mr. Vlado Bosanac, Executive Chairman, CEO and Co-founder from Advanced Human Imaging. Welcome, Vlado.
Thanks, Sage. Lovely to be here.
Thanks for making time for the show, and with your experience of over 25 years in venture capital and private equity, successfully funding over 10 startups. I'm eager to share your insights with the viewers.
Absolutely, looking forward to it.
Would you please briefly explain how your technology unlocks the unique aspects of an individual's health, well-being and chronic disease risk, please?
Yeah, absolutely. So Advanced Human Imaging is a mobile phone-based technology. We've used the mobile camera along with the ability of a mobile phone with its compute strength or power to be able to analyse a number of markers in the human form. And how we've done this is by using the capturing capabilities of the actual camera itself and a number of unique algorithms that we have had built out and partnerships we've had around the world, which allows us to capture this data. So if you're using the technology we've created as an individual, you've got an ability to scan the human form, being your body, and it gives you a number of markers that have been predetermined by science over the years. So we don't proclaim to have, if you like, created the chronic disease markers. What we do is we measure what those markers are digitally using the privacy of an individual's phone to be able to do that so they can get that real-time data for themselves. In addition to the body scan, we've also have a linkage between the vital signs that we can capture through the transdermal imaging of the face, which allows us to merge that information together to give a number of chronic disease markers such as heart disease, risk of stroke and type 2 diabetes, which is, if you like, the paramount things that are creating this tsunami of chronic disease globally for the healthcare system. And through the privacy of the mobile phone, we're able to validate that information on device for the consumer and hand it back to them and their care providers. And obviously with COVID being the extreme of what's happening around the world now, remote care is such an important part of healthcare, being able to give these diagnostics and this capability to individuals at home has been a bit of a game changer and certainly drawn a lot of attention to the company.
Absolutely. It almost seems too good to be true. What an amazing innovation to make it so much more convenient for the patients during this time especially. And to which industries do you sell your software development kits, please?
So we primarily work across 4 separate industries. Apparel was where we started our life, if you like, because we were looking to be able to measure individuals and accurately give them an assessment of their dimensions when they were buying clothing online, because the thing about clothing online is 30 to 40% of it gets returned, unfortunately, because the sizing charts are so different across the world and the way stitching patterns work within the different apparel companies. But we've really taken a hard pivot in the last few years to be more, if you like, focused on wellness, health and the medical sector. And especially with COVID, we had a lot of people, a lot of organisations reach out to us to work with us in the medical sector. So when you look at the 4 verticals, if you like, of the company, apparel was the first one. We moved into health and fitness after that. Insurance, both life and health, so that the insurers know how to work with and care for the individuals they're underwriting policies with. And lastly, but the largest part of the company now, due to the lockdowns globally and what's happening with COVID, is that telehealth, mHealth sector that we're very heavily supported in and signing agreements nearly on a weekly basis with organisations that want to be able to get this data that we can provide them at a granular level with their consumers so they can look after them. So it's really been quite a growth phase for the company in the last 12 months, and we sit there now with 18 contracts signed across the globe with organisations with over 400 million active users and populations being worked through with these 18 different organisations. So it's a very big field we're working in.
That's fantastic. Thank you so much for sharing your insights. So what makes advanced human imaging's technology reliable? It sounds really easy to use with an iPhone or smartphone camera. How is it being used for diagnostic purposes, please?
Yeah, so it is easy to use. You nailed it there. It's one of the biggest parts of being able to provide this sort of a capability is obviously the user experience needs to be engaging and easy for an individual to work through. People, when you look at mobile phone applications in general, people have a pretty good understanding of how their phone works. So for us, it's always been the holy grail of delivery for us has always been setting it on device and being able to give the privacy and that capability on device for an individual. And as I mentioned earlier, we're not purporting to be the science that created the way that you would measure certain things in regards to risk analysis. That was done very well by the World Health Organization or the International Diabetes Federation and so on, depending on the different fields of risk assessment that we are analysing for an individual. But it's a very straightforward system. Our design team have done a wonderful job of actually mapping the user case and giving direction on the way through. And the reliability of the technology really comes down to the accuracy we're able to produce through the devices, because the devices these days are incredible. They could run the space shuttle to the moon. Years ago, when you think about the Apollo 13, it was a whole room filled with computers. Now we run a mobile device with machine learning chips on them and GPUs that have as much power as some of these computers did back 20 years ago. So the functionality and the accuracy is very much an alignment of our algorithms as well as just the power of a mobile device.
Right, sure. That's quite technical, but I believe your innovation is making life easier for those patients who are already tired and feeling the symptoms of their diseases, so it must come as some relief to them. And I understand that diabetes patients these days may not necessarily need to have insulin injections, so the innovations in these medical industries and technological innovations are really making life easier for patients. In your opinion, how significant is a smartphone-based scanning technology in the present times? You mentioned that it helps with the remote diagnosis. Could you expand on that?
Sure. I think it's an absolute paramount of remote care. When you look at the landscape currently in medical and just across the landscape in general of care, what advanced human imaging is working to be is not the ambulance at the bottom of the hill per se. We're looking to be the fence at the top of the hill. So what we want to be able to do, and what we actually do, is we give the early warning signs of a lot of these treatable conditions, if caught early enough, can be dealt with for an individual. And again, when you're looking at the landscape of COVID-19 and what it's doing to the world, and people really being reluctant to go to see a doctor or go to a hospital or that sort of a facility, we give them an ability to capture this data at home with their own personal device. And the one thing that has really pivoted hard, if you like, in the last 12 months is the acceptance of this sort of a communication where we're sitting on a video streaming capability where we're talking to each other today. Well, doctors are doing the same thing with their patients, whether it be from a smartphone, and then we can provide the data the doctor would have wanted to capture in a consult remotely so they can share that data with the doctor at the same time and have a very granular a very granular session with the doctor to be able to understand what their real risk profile is. And we have expanded that to be able to give the doctor vital signs as well as central adiposity, which is where the risk of a lot of the mortalities come from, especially when you're linking them to COVID and where you look at the higher mortality rates are in the obese, in the people with diabetes and so on. So as I said earlier, what we're trying to do is be that early warning side, and we give real-time actionable data to a consumer so they can see if they are at risk of any of the ailments we've mentioned earlier, and then they can give this data to their doctor to instigate treatments and work with their doctor for their personal care.
Absolutely. I mean, early detection is imperative. And if you're making that process easier for people's vital signs and other readings to be captured and delivered to the doctors, sounds like a really amazing benefit for patients and doctors out there. So we have to wind up our discussion now, Vlado, but are there any near-term pipeline goals for your company?
Well, we've made a number of announcements even in the last 30 days, and we have, as I mentioned earlier, we have 18 partners globally at the moment, which we're working towards getting live. We made an announcement this morning with BizBaz, which is a fintech health tech company out of Singapore that's doing a lot of work with the Singaporean government and other governments around the world, where they're assisting them in a health scoring capability through gamification. That's a great agreement for the company. The guys have got a really nice piece of technology, and the way they gamify that engagement with our technology to bring that real-time data through makes it fun for the individual to get involved with as well. So that's a win for us on a new agreement. Outside of that, the next 6 months for us is working with a number of the existing partners to get them live. Everybody's trying to pivot hard into this telemedicine side of things to be able to supply real-time data to their care providers, and that's what we're working on. We've got the 18 customers at the moment. The key for the company right now is to go live with a number of these partners and give them this capability in the palm of their hands.
That's absolutely spot on, and there are so many amazing telemedicine innovations happening at the moment, and congratulations with your new partnership. Sounds great, and best of luck moving forward. So thank you, Vlado, for coming on the show today.
Thanks, Sage. Lovely to meet you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. And viewers, if you've just joined us, we just had a very interesting discussion with Mr. Vlado Bosanac, the Executive Chairman, CEO and Co-Founder of Advanced Human Imaging. If you'd like to watch the full discussion, please check out our YouTube channel, 𝐞 Media. It should be there in the next day or two. And as we say, stay apprised and invest wise with 𝐘.